Hello, everyone. So there's a few things I wanted to go over for quizzes 5, 6, and 7, and also for the first narrative, the big essay right out of class here, the first one. There's no sources required for that. We are going to use MLA format, so I'm sending you some notes with a link to the MLA format. There's also a module as well, and that a little handbook, right? If you bought that for the class, that also tells you how to do the MLA format and citations there. So basically, double space Times New Roman 12-point font. It's on the left, right on the first page, your name, my name, the class, the date. Right below that, the title centered. You should have a title that's descriptive. You can be clever with it if you want. And then below that, you just hit one enter, right? It's the same space between everything. Tab over, start writing your paper. Right, so there's no extra spaces between anything there. So yeah, you should probably just look at a few of the format things and make sure that it jives well with what you're doing there. There are topics under the Essay 1 narrative descriptive assignment there for you as well. So I just want to go over the quiz specifics. This is pretty straightforward, but there's a few tricky things about it. So there's subject-verb agreement. So remember, right, it has to agree in number, like he is, they are. Every once in a while in English, though, there's a somewhat tricky case that we guess at, right? So, for example, if there is something that's modified by a preposition, like a gang of thieves or a nest of eggs, you take out the preposition as if it's not even there. So the subject would actually be a gang or a nest, right? And I wouldn't say a nest are, right? A nest is. So a nest of eggs is under the bushes. Or a gang of thieves will, whatever, So basically, you take out any prepositions on, under, by, around, with, right? And you look at what you have left and whether it's singular or plural. But those, some descriptions in English, right, we tend to get the subject and verb right, even though we don't conceptualize really what it is. Everyone, no one, someone, those are all singular. Everyone is. So if I use a pronoun with them, everyone raise his or her hand right now, right? So singular. Those are, if it has one in it, it's singular. Let's see what else. We also have verb tense there, which is pretty regular. All right. So there's one exception that I need to talk about when you're looking at plurals, or. Okay, when you have an or. So it really depends upon the order that each item is in the sentence. The one that's closest to the verb is what it's conjugated as. So if I said, either Jack or Jill is coming to see me, I make it agree with Jill. Jill is coming to see me. But if I said, either John or his children are going to pick this up, it would be, his children are, right? It would be a plural because that's closer to the verb. So whatever subject is closer to the verb, if you used or, is used for agreement. Okay. Now, one of the other quizzes is on semicolons. Remember, semicolons join two independent clauses. I like chicken, semicolon, I like steak. There's no subordinating elements, right? Like, after I ate the chicken, comma, I felt sick. There wouldn't be a semicolon there because the word after makes the first clause dependent. Semicolons also don't start a list, okay? Colons, the two dots, start a list only if they come at the end of a complete thought, right? So if I said, I need to pick up some stuff at the store, and then I listed it, that would be a colon there to start the list, not a semicolon. But that colon can only come if it's at the end of an independent clause. So if I said, I need to pick up Kleenex, food, soap, whatever, you wouldn't have the semicolon there. That would be incorrect. Now, the only time using semicolons in a list is when you have a very complicated list where each item is further described. So in the notes that I'm going to send you, I sent an example of that. So if I said, I have 3 friends, John, a doctor, Sally, a baker, and Larry, a phrenologist, the semicolon would go between each item. So John, comma, a doctor is one item. Then you have your semicolon to differentiate because you can't just keep putting commas there without it getting confusing. As far as verb tense goes, normally we do things in the past tense. We want to stick to the past tense unless it's the action of a movie or novel. Okay? So the only time you're going to use had in the past tense is when you're telling something and then this event that you suddenly talk about happened before what you already talked about. So for example, okay, I went to the movies, but it had already sold out. So before I arrived to buy my tickets or wherever I am now, right, it had already, or I got to the counter is a better example. I got to the counter and it had already sold out, right? Had happened before I ever got to the counter there. So that's the only time you're going to use this had in the past tense for the most part. So it shows order when you're already talking in the past tense. We have transitive verbs that have an object, right? So if an action is occurring, like John threw the ball, then the object is the ball. Intransitive verbs have no object, so it's just like I slept. And sometimes there's differences in the way that intransitive verbs and transitive verbs work. So some verbs are only transitive and some verbs are only intransitive, and some can be both. So for example, itch can be a transitive verb, right? Scratch can't. So I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Itch can never be a transitive verb. I apologize. I said that completely wrong. So you review the notes there, and it'll say it right, right? You cannot itch something. So if it was a transitive verb, right, you could possibly do that action. So you can scratch something, that's transitive. I apologize if that's confusing. The other one that are transitive and intransitive are lie and lay. So follow the notes that I send for you on that, and that'll make that, I think, a little bit clearer. I just wanted to talk through it very quickly. Lie and lay are the same kind of thing as itch and scratch, right? So basically, if you're doing something to something else, right, you are, let's say I'm going to lay this pencil down. I lay the pencil on the table. Lay is the transitive verb because something is receiving that action. The intransitive verb, nothing's receiving the action. So once it's there, it lies there all by itself. And there's a few questions on the quiz where you have to differentiate between lie and lay. So in general, right, in the tenses there, lay, you're doing it to something, right? I laid the child down, okay? Lie, the child lies there all by themselves. That's intransitive. So I apologize for the confusion and the misspeaking earlier. Transitive verbs have an object that's acted upon, and intransitive verbs don't. And so I just want to say one or two more things about the writing samples. I still need to get comments to just a few people out there. I apologize. I had some internet problems last week. It kind of put me a little bit behind, but I think we're good now. So some of you have already gotten it. I need just a few more I'm going to try to do in the next couple days. One of the things that you need to note about narrative writing is that some topics are so generalized that they can't really capture the audience or differentiate themselves from other people who submit the same basic essay. So for example, the true friend topic is terrible for that because it's like, oh, I know what a true friend is, so you start writing. It's somebody who believes in you, somebody who cares for you, someone who's there for you, someone who supports you, someone who tells you the truth. All of those were sentence fragments. I pulled them out of the air. I didn't have to think about them at all. That doesn't mean they're wrong. They're not wrong, right? But at the same time, what makes your essay different from everybody else's there? Specific details. So if I tell you about my friend so-and-so who, when he faced this problem, I had to do this specifically in detail. Details are the things that bring that to life. Now, the keeping the 3 items and even especially the fears, usually when someone talks about their fears, I can tell you detailed stories about it, right? Or oh my gosh, and then there was the clatter, and I saw the vestige of the phantom, whatever it is, right? Whatever is going on, they can tell an interesting narrative about it. The friend one doesn't necessarily lend itself to that, so you have to think, how can I make this essay stand out so that it's not exactly the same thing that everybody else turns in, even down to the sentence fragments, because that's how we think of it. That's just easy to grab. So try and not always go with your first instinct on some of these writing assignments so that you can think, okay, is this what everyone else would do? Or can I make it still me and give it some life there, And like I say, that doesn't mean the papers are written badly. Because sometimes you need to think about how you're phrasing some of those things there. So I apologize for the misspeaking on intransitive and transitive. If there's any questions, contact me through eLearn. So remember, quizzes 5, 6, and 7. And then I'm going to send you a link to the MLA format there and start working on that narrative essay as well. Okay, thank you.